Hi, Annalisa Six here, giving you the January 2023 horoscope for the sign of Sagittarius, Sun, and Rising. My little bulldog is here. He's very upset that I've been recording these videos for the past almost 3 hours. He wants me to be done. So I apologize if I'm a little bit distracted. I also am starting to fade. It's New Year's Eve. Happy New Year. I'm Sag Rising. So this horoscope is kind of for me too. Very excited to get into it. I'm excited about January. January is not the best month. It definitely doesn't start out good, but the end of the month is what I'm calling the breakthrough. The breakthrough into the new year starts at the end of January. So we get off to a little bit of a rocky start. We've got Mercury in retrograde in Capricorn. We have Mars retrograde in Gemini. And we've got Uranus retrograde in Taurus. And we're at the beginning of the retrograde at the beginning of January. So this is not the time to get excited about starting anew. That's really not going to come until the end of the month. And so this is, you're supported and kind of taking a slow to it. And I don't know if other Sagittarius dominant people are like this, but I'm super goal oriented person and I love setting intentions and goals for the new year. And this is the first year where I'm just like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm done. I'm done trying to set new year, new me intentions. And I mean, I am an astrologer, so part of it might be just knowing the astrology, but I know a lot of people this year that are like, yeah, fuck it. And I think that Mercury and Mars retrograde have a lot to do with that feeling, because we all know that it's just not the time to get excited about starting things right now. And so for Sag Rising and Sag Sun horoscope, where Mercury is hitting in the chart in terms of the horoscope is the area of the chart that has to do with our values and our beliefs and kind of the way that we process those. And so we might be reflecting a lot on that. The way that this particular chart is calculated actually has some of the Mercury retrograde hitting in the house of career too. So you might also be in a place of reflecting and reviewing whether or not things are really working for you in the way that you're presenting the work that you do out in the world. So if you're thinking about a career change, this wouldn't necessarily be the time to do it, but you might be in that thought process. And this might be the time where you start really thinking about that. Mercury retrogrades, it's not an action time. Mars retrograde, not an action time. It's a reflect, review time. And so again, values, beliefs, are we in alignment? Is that matching up with what we're doing in the world? That's a big theme for Sag for the month of January. The Mars retrograde in Gemini has been going on since the end of October. Mars has been in Gemini since August. And Gemini is the opposing sign of Sagittarius. And so to have Mars opposite Sagittarius is not easy. It does not feel good. And the area that this is hitting, that it has been hitting for the horoscope, has a lot to do with our personal relationships. So like our lovers, our best friends, that kind of thing. And there's some conflict there. We might be working out some conflict. Again, this is for the horoscope, so it's different in the individual birth chart, but this is in alignment for rising signs, right? Predominantly, but also for sun sign. But we might be working through different conflict and communication, because Gemini rules communication, around how we perceive our relationships with close partners and friendships. So that's also something that's up for review during this time. Mercury will station direct around the 18th, but we're still going to be in the shadow period for about a week, a little over a week, 10 days, 7 days. However, everybody's different with their shadow periods. I use a 10-day shadow period for Mercury. So pretty much the rest of the month, the whole month, we're pretty much in this Mercury retrograde bubble. Mars stations direct the second week of January around the 12th. And again, we'll be in a little bit of a shadow period. So it's not the time for action, but we are getting released from this reflect and review. We will start to see the path. We will start to see like, okay, well, this is where we start moving forward in our relationships and in our career and the work that we're doing, and around our education, if we're learning something new, or around the values and beliefs that we want to align ourselves with. The other thing that's happening at the beginning of January is Venus entering Aquarius on the 3rd. And so where that's hitting for the Sagittarius dominant person has to do with our financial kind of situation. And so this is actually great for financial abundance. And also it's going to be moving through communication. So also great for communication. Venus is going to resolve a lot of the problems that we have with the Mars retrograde. And so there's going to be a resolution when they team up. And so we're going to see a lot of resolution by the middle of the month, which is really great. The other thing that we have going on in January is Jupiter is now officially back in Aries, and it's going to be making its way through the first 5 degrees of Aries, and it's going to be making a trine to Sagittarius. So we love that. Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius, and it does very well in Aries. And so we will feel a lot of that personal empowered energy. And where this is hitting in the chart has a lot to do with our home life. So the way that we feel in our home and also our creative energy. And so we'll be feeling a lot of energy around maybe expanding upon where we live. It wouldn't be uncommon for a Sag to maybe want to venture out and live somewhere else for a while, or go on a trip and live somewhere else for a while. My Sag rising father is actually doing that for the first half of January. He's going to be in Mexico for the whole first half of January. So, you know, you might have an inclination towards that. A lot of people that have fire energy in their home house, the 4th house, have a hard time feeling home at a stationary place. Like they like to see geography as a home. That's a very Sag like trait. But I've noticed that with other fire energies, that can also be sometimes true. I personally am one of those Sag rising people that has learned to embrace being stationary. So I tend to focus more on expanding my mind, because I actually really like staying at home. But the earlier part of my youth, I wanted to live a nomadic life and be on the road and never have a house. Like the fact that I have a house is crazy. Like I would have wanted to live out of a van forever. So we change. It's not true for everybody, but my point is that we might want to expand upon where we live in some way. So if we have a home that we like being stationary at, maybe we're doing some kind of home project in that way. And if we, in terms of like elevating our living situation, and if we want to travel, we might want to live abroad. That's something that's common there. Let's get into the moon energy. I haven't talked about Uranus direct, but I'm going to get into that. We'll start with the full moon that we have at the beginning of the year on January 6th, which is at 16 degrees Cancer. And that is actually going to be in an area that is also associated with our relationship. And so if we're married, this is going to kind of highlight our marriage and shared resources with that partner. Or if we live with somebody, it's going to like family or roommates, that'll highlight those shared resources. Also, this has a lot to do with sex and death and rebirth. This is the area of the chart that is traditionally ruled by Scorpio. And so those themes come up during the full moon, and full moons there's a culmination part of like where we're ingressing towards the full moon that has to do with manifesting. And then there's a disseminating phase of the full moon that has to do with releasing. And so we can do both during a full moon. We can manifest or we can release, but we want to set the intentions for manifestation when that moon is ingressing. And then we want to do our releasing when that moon is disseminating. And so it's up to you. I mean, you can do both. You can figure out like, what am I releasing around my concept of death, my sexuality, my relationship with shared resources. If you're a Sag dominant person that's leaving a relationship or moving or changing something about your financial situation with family or marriage partners, you might be releasing all of that. If you're somebody that is not in that situation where you're married and things are good, you might be elevating that in some way and wanting to manifest or build upon it. The full moon will have a lot to do with feeling more into that energy. Full moon in Cancer is also a very introverted time. Cancer is cardinal water. It has to do with our emotions, our feelings, our connection to family, our connection to home. And so we might feel more inclined to self-care and retreat, and then just kind of think about these themes as well. Once we start moving out of the first part of the year that is kind of slow and reflective, we're going to have Uranus stationing direct right after the sun enters Aquarius. So the sun's going to enter Aquarius on the 20th, and then Uranus is going to station direct on the 22nd. And then on the 21st, sandwiched between that, we have our new moon in Aquarius at 1 degree. And so this is again what I'm calling kind of the breakthrough part of the year once we enter Aquarius season, where we no longer have any more retrograde planets. We're out of the retrograde for a couple months. And then we're in this sign of Aquarius that comes after Capricorn. That's all about innovation, change, building upon the old to make a better way or a better world. And so while we've been in this Capricornian reflective period with Mercury retrograde in Capricorn and Capricorn season, we're now ready to go start anew in Aquarius season with all of the planets direct. And, you know, Venus will be in Aquarius, and the new moon's happening at 1 degree of Aquarius and 1 degree, you know, very beginning of a sign. And so it's starting anew. It literally is starting anew. So I do feel like this new moon is where we're really going to feel like the year is starting. So I think that's going to be positive for us to set our New Year's intentions or New Year's resolutions on that new moon on the 21st. So fuck January 1st. This is all about the 21st. Venus is going to enter Pisces at the end of the month, which is also really auspicious. But let's first, I'm going to rewind. We'll talk about where that new moon is hitting for Sag in Aquarius. So again, where Aquarius is in the chart has a lot to do with our finances. And so the way that we're kind of like managing our money and setting intentions around financial abundance, but also self-worth. So also having Venus passing through that area in Aquarius has a lot to do with self-worth too. And the new moon could be setting intentions around that and kind of, you know, finding ways to cultivate more stability in our lives too. That's also a big theme. And then once Venus enters Pisces, we start moving more into the area of communication and perception and simplified learning. And so we might also be feeling really inspired if we like to write. This is a great energy for writers. It's a great energy for finding more empathic ways to communicate our feelings and to also work through our feelings. It's also a very spiritual enhancing energy. So meditating, spiritual work, that kind of stuff is great for Venus and Pisces, especially in the area that it's transiting for the Sagittarius chart. Anything else there? I think I actually talked about it all. So Happy New Year, Sag, rising and sun. Good luck to you. Be careful. Don't aim too high, but definitely don't aim low, and hold out for the end of the month because that's when things start to get good. Happy New Year.